Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for spending time with us today. We are with Cross Country Consulting. My name is Tom Alexander. I'm a partner in our business transformation practice and could be more thrilled to talk to you today about digital transformation, which is a buzzword to some, but what we're really trying to do here today is trying to get you to move faster. And how do you break down some of the silos to boost your success is the theme of what we'll talk about here today. But we're going to give you some practical tips and tricks as we go through and talk to you over the next 30, 45 minutes. So with that, what are we looking to hit today? If we could go to the agenda. So we're going to do some quick intros here. I'll introduce my partner here in a second. We did a study with Forrester. Forrester actually sponsored that study where we reached out to a bunch of finance leaders, IT leaders, trying to figure out what are the keys to success. So we have some insights to share with you. We definitely have some blockers to success that have been identified from the questionnaire that we sent out. And we'll talk to you about how we think about transformation, what the tools are to move faster and to create success factors and to measure that success. And we'll talk about a couple of case studies along the way when we do that and just call out what Jen and I are seeing out there in the field as we talk to our clients today, the problems they're trying to solve and what they're running into. And then we'll leave you with ways to take action quickly. Like how do you jump into action and supercharge the activities that are digital transformation? And this couldn't be more relevant. I'm sure you all are thinking about Gen AI. It took me all of 2 slides to mention it. Everybody wants to know, but this is just one more tool in the toolkit of digital transformation. AI has been around for a while and probably something that you talked about leading up to now, but now Gen AI is in the forefront. So to me, this is a super relevant conversation as you think about culturally, how are you taking that on alongside all the other change that happens in this very fast-moving, action-packed environment that we're all in. So that's our agenda for today. If we go to the next one. This is us. So quick intro on myself. I am a partner at Cross Country, as I mentioned, business transformation. Spent 23 years in practice. So I was part of corporate, turned a couple of those roles into transformation roles. So I just have a passion for driving change. And, when you get hit with challenges, you have to move fast to change things. And I was the CFO of the insurance practice at PwC, also the controller at PwC for a long time. That latter role really turned that into a digital transformation success. And we'll share some of those stories today. But with that, I want to hand it over to Jen to introduce herself and take us forward here.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. Lovely to be with you all today. Thanks for taking the time. We're looking forward to the content and information. Hopefully you're getting something out of it today. As Tom shared, I'm also a partner in our business transformation team based here in DC and have been with Cross Country a little over 8 years. I started my career in corporate accounting, very passionate about the finance and accounting spaces and all of our back office teams and how they're functioning and ways to help them grow and mature and be better business partners to their front office teams. Worked in technology and systems for a good part of my career as well. Just really passionate about how companies can better leverage the technology that they have at their fingertips, finding faster and more meaningful ways to transform their organization. So really looking forward to the conversation today. And with that, let's dig in. We're going to kick us off with a very easy polling question. We'll flip over to the poll in just a minute. But as you guys are thinking about this, it's interesting to look at this space because we're starting to see a number of cross-functional roles emerge in the back office. And so if any of you all are chief data officers, chief transformation officers, feel free to hop into the other. I read this great article the other day. It was about at the end of October. So look for it. It's on CIO.com, but it's about the emergence of the Chief Transformation Office. And while the Transformation Office has been around for a while, the interesting component of this article was the amount of CIOs that are being asked, or CTOs being asked, to extend their roles to be the Transformation Officer role as well. And so a really good article and very relevant to what we're talking about today, and finding opportunities to break down silos between our CFO and CIO organization, as well as just speeding up the process. But great article there, really interesting to see how companies are just responding to the change in all of the technology in our landscape today. So thank you guys. It's very helpful to see the results. We'll share this back just for folks so they can see. We do have a number of folks falling outside of these teams, but a bulk of folks in our finance and accounting teams. So lovely to have you guys. And we'll flip over to the next slide as well.
It's interesting, Jen, and how like the gray between some of the traditional functional roles and how that may be the key for success. Let me shut this poll down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, there we go. So seeing those lines start to blur, and maybe that is the key. So we mentioned the study that we did. And what was that study? It's over here. You can see the QR code. So if you haven't seen it, feel free to download that now. We thank those of you who maybe participated in those studies. So we did reach back out to you to see if you wanted to participate in this webcast to get some of the results today. So thanks again if you were able to participate and give us some of this information, some rich data. But who do we talk to? So we reached out to 300 plus finance and IT leaders at companies over 100 million in revenue, wanted to make it somewhat sizable and scalable for what we were talking about. And the purpose was to understand how leaders can overcome critical challenges that impede their progress. Because inevitably, and you'll see some of the stats we share here in a second, inevitably the clients that we talk to, not surprisingly, that reach out for consulting help, need help moving faster. Something is blocking them and they can't determine why they can't move faster. There's a lot of finger pointing, which is maybe the root cause of all of this and why they're not moving fast enough. And the reason why, like always start with the why, we want to identify what are successful, what are the keys to successful digital transformation, making that more than a buzzword. Like digital transformation is thrown around at length and it's painfully used at times. But what is it? And, we think about it as a cultural word. It is like, many people talk about agile, like you don't do agile, you are agile. Well, that's how I think about digital. You either have that digital culture where you're ready for change or you're not. And that's where you run into the blockers that we see oftentimes. And those blockers are outlined below. So big themes that came out of the paper in the study are the folks that were doing it really well had finance and IT aligned. And that was critical for enterprise transformation. It wasn't just about a finance transformation role. It was a North Star tone at the top. Somebody at the C-suite level said, here is what we are doing. We're driving this all the way down. Here are our goals, and there is alignment throughout. And if you think about two of the most influential functions in any company, finance and IT are those. You're holding the budgets, you're holding the agendas, you have the priority list, you have the roadmaps, and you're driving the change. And oftentimes the CFO or the CIO is at the center of driving that change and leading it. And we saw that come in very clearly in the data set. So those are the leaders. And so much so that one of the keys to success, and oftentimes we're seeing the CIO actually line up under the CFO from a reporting perspective. And we saw that as one of the critical success factors. So folks are saying, wow, we're aligning this team so much that maybe we should just create the reporting relationship. And we're seeing the role of the CFO expand as a result of that. So finance and IT alignment is critical, no secret. And if you could find some operating rhythms there, you're really going to supercharge your success in the area. Other fun fact or thing that we found was that finance can't get out of its own way to a certain extent. And that is prohibiting change just within itself. So there are silos and competing priorities within finance functions. It is the age-old controllership versus FP&A versus the person that's running with IT and owns the system strategy within finance. And oftentimes we see each of those functions purchasing tools and trying to plug them in and thinking that's digital transformation. And really that's not driving much change at all. It's just creating tech debt and more silos and not thinking about end-to-end process and what the greater good North Star is for where finance can create value. Like, what is value creation for finance, and are we all aligned around that? So it is incumbent on the CFO to get their act together and get their teams together and aligned if they're going to create value. But left to their own devices, and we see it all the time, because Jen and I do a ton of finance transformation work, we see it all the time, is that there's that butting of heads, or there's handoffs without understanding what everybody else is doing with information. And that's prohibitive to value creation and digital transformation overall, as finance is so critical to supporting the enterprise. So 2 key findings out of the gate. So we're throwing around digital transformation. Let's go to the next one and our next polling question. What is your understanding of digital transformation? Give us some of your feedback. Very strong, sound, basic, new concept. Hopefully not a new concept at this point in time. And, you know, we often talk about, this is not a one-time event. Like, digital transformation is not something you do for a year and then you're done. Like, you're never going to be done. There's always going to be the next technology that is flying at you. So, you know, it's about the journey and how you play the long game here and set yourself up for success. And that's how we think about digital transformation. So you see some results. Well, maybe not see them yet. We got some results pouring in here. And can everybody see this, Jen? Or do we have to?
Yeah, I can see it on my side. I don't know if folks can see it. But...
All right. Okay. There. End poll, and we'll share the results. So we've got only one of our 16 folks here that have answered that has a very strong understanding of digital transformation. So there's always room to grow, right? And it's always changing. The definition is changing often too. But most folks are sound. And that means that this is a priority for just about everybody. If you're a company that has not prioritized digital transformation, probably not going to be in business too much longer at this point in time. So anyway, stop sharing that and move on to the next one. Jen.
Great. So as we keep moving, we're going to share a couple of key insights. So Tom shared some high level. We're going to kind of hit into some key insights from the study, and then also just talk about how we're seeing them also play out with our clients, and then moving into ways in which we can overcome. So in this one, this was a really interesting part of the study in terms of what is happening in terms of the focus for digital transformation initiatives with our within the respondents of the study. And so, not surprisingly, 53% of the respondents said that they are working on addressing their legacy systems, whether they're upgrading them, they're wholesale replacing them, or they're looking for ways to just really consolidate what's in their tech stack and streamline what they're managing. The interesting component of this is the second insight here, and that the same 53% were also agreeing that they really haven't made the progress that they had been hoping for in that transformation journey. And you know, for us, you know, just working with our clients, what they're being faced with, as Tom mentioned, like the pace of change in all of the digital tools that are out there is just massive, and it's constant. We're seeing point systems that our companies are leveraging and starting to embed Gen AI. Companies are trying to wrap their heads around generative AI and how they're leveraging it. What are they using it for? Where can they use it for? We're seeing the onset of quantum computing. The role of analytics across an organization is impacting companies and getting to insights faster. The need to do that faster is so imperative. So it's just coming very rapidly at the level of change is coming very rapidly at our organizations. And so they may be struggling with this in terms of being successful, because they're still, many of our clients, and Tom, I think you and I were talking about this in terms of how we do transformation. Many of our clients are still trying to get up the maturity curve and getting into cloud computing. And so imagine like those organizations that haven't even fully gotten off their, you know, client server based systems. And now they're trying to navigate just getting into, crossing that chasm over into cloud computing. And then you layer in all the analytical tools and the digital tools that are out there. So it's really not surprising that companies are struggling with making progress, because we're still seeing companies that are really far behind on the maturity curve. They're trying to elapse it, but there's so much coming at them. And it's also really hard for them to prioritize, because there is so much to do. And quite frankly, the ability to prioritize and set, I should do this, I should do this. The burning platforms, there's just a multitude of burning platforms. So where do you go first? How do you figure that out? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the big things that we think about that's also causing the issue, and Tom touched on this, is that in the wake of all of this change coming to our organizations and companies not knowing what to affect, we're also being hit with a really difficult macroeconomic environment. And so there are competing priorities that we talked about before. The finance leaders and the CIO leaders are having to do more with less. And when they try to do more with less, they start that plug and play brain on just putting in a tool here to fix a need here. And they don't look at the big picture of what they need from a go forward future state. And they're often not basing that plug and play off of a broader vision and strategy. And so it becomes, it becomes painful through the process, because they adopt something small in one space and it's helpful for a small team or a small group, but it's not having the big transformational effect that they really need it to be. So not surprising that we're seeing over half of our respondents not making that progress, because they're struggling with the prioritization. They're struggling with so much change happening. And so what can we do about it? What else are we seeing as some of the challenges and the ways in which companies are affecting change? So we'll go to the next slide and talk about some other aspects of the study as well. And we'll get into what can we do about this later.
Yeah, Jen, that was really good. Like, digital transformation is not buying a tool and trying to plug it in. And what I think right now is that people see generative AI as a shortcut, where they haven't set themselves up for foundational success, in that they can't take on change well. They don't cross-functionally team. They don't drive discovery together. They don't have an avenue for experimentation. And this could be a convenient shortcut because it's another tool they're going to purchase and try to jam into the system. And without those structures in place to experiment, then you can't truly be digital, and you're not going to get the most from the change. So we've beat up a lot of the points on this slide, but I thought it would be interesting to share a couple fun facts that are underlying some of the data we've already talked about. But what we saw in the survey is that everybody agrees you should have close strategic partnerships across business units. Think about the business teaming with the back office. Think about finance teaming with IT and other functions. Everyone should be aligned, tone at the top. Those strategic partnerships need to exist for success. Yet, 65% of those surveyed said that there was a silo between finance and IT. And the most common question that I'm seeing right now is, who owns the data? Well, IT owns the data, and what do they need access to it for? And why do I need to create a data mart? And what are the insights that you're looking to provide that we don't provide already? And what are all these data sets, and why do we need to procure more? And perhaps there's a different way to look at that, in that, what is the greater good of the organization? How do we come together to create some of the insights that our board is looking for, that our investors are looking for? And how do we drive that together? But too often it is, nothing to see here, don't look over here. There's a line of demarcation that is preventing progress. And then if you look down at the bottom, we know there are silos, but nobody's really prioritizing eliminating those silos. They're just going to keep plugging away. Maybe they're going to keep buying those tools that Jen pointed out in the earlier slide, keep trying to plug them in. Eventually one of them they're going to hit, and this is going to be successful. But maybe taking a step back and thinking about how to operationalize and work together and lay down arms and say, maybe we should be incentivized that way, but eliminate those organizational silos in the next 12 months might be the simplest way that you can drive the most progress, or more progress than you have seen to date. And that's what we're recommending today. So anyway, some underlying data. Love the quote over on the left. Can't help but point it out. Want to go alone, go fast. Or if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is a journey. This is continuous improvement, not just digital transformation. So let's keep flipping here.
Before we go, and
Yeah.
we'll jump into the blockers, but it's interesting when we first started talking about digital transformation, some of the early research that was out there was about breaking down and changing the org structure within the organization and the importance of changing that hierarchical structure so that there's more team of teams working together. And it's very interesting to see how this is playing out with the success or challenging to be successful in your journey. I think many companies have missed that data point on changing the work model as part of their journey. So interesting. And so as we talked about before, just and again, we've talked about the alignment component, but these I have three things, and we'll dig into each of them a little bit more in terms of how these topics on the right are playing into being blockers into the transformational journeys. And so while we talk about the silos play out in a couple of different ways. So yes, there's separation between IT and the CFO organization, but what does that really mean, and how is that really actually happening in the org, and what are we seeing that is causing it? And so a main component, I think, is, you know, when companies are going through their strategic planning activity, and especially as companies have evolved since COVID, when in COVID, companies like really had to come together and strategically plan because they had to really change what they're thinking about their business and how are they going to survive during COVID, or change their business products and services to account for what was happening in this new world. And the interesting component is that as COVID has calmed, we're seeing our clients going back out to their organizational constructs pre-COVID and not collaborating together on their strategic planning activity. And that strategic planning activity is really what kicks off a start on being aligned into their goals and objectives. When you want to be, you know, having your plan for your next year, what initiatives are you going to kick off? What strategic imperatives do you have? What are you trying, you know, what's your measures of success? And when those things are not happening and we're not collaborating together to understand each other's imperatives, we get a break of that operational alignment. And therefore the teams start functioning in very, you know, stovepiped manners, and they're just targeting their goals, their objectives, their measures that they want to hit, versus how do we as a CFO organization want to help our company attain their strategic imperatives, and how do we then work with our operational teams, our IT teams, our risk teams to accomplish that in the same manner as a collaborative unit. And so that's part of what we're seeing as where the blockers are happening. We're just not coming together with a shared vision, shared strategy, and it's breaking our ability to be successful in the journey for transformation. And one of the other big things that contributes to this is that companies really do not understand end-to-end processes across the organization. And this plays out, and I think about this often around as a practice. CrossCountry does a ton of close optimization projects for our clients. We work heavily with our clients to help them improve their close, whether they're going through a transaction or preparing for IPO or just having big change. And one of the biggest areas of pushback that I get with our clients is when we start telling them that we want to have a voice of the customer session. And we say, we need to bring in all of the people that are contributing to the close, that upstream part of their close process. So many times our controllers and CFOs are pushing back and saying, no, this is just for our team. This is just for our finance and accounting to improve. And we say, no, that's not how processes actually start. Everything ends in our finance and accounting teams or our FP&A teams, sure, but the processes are actually starting well up into the front office teams, and we need to affect them. And so without a real understanding of end-to-end processes and understanding from all parties, all of your stakeholders, your customers, your receivers of the close, as an example, or your finance processes, we start to lose that understanding of what a transformational change does to the rest of the company. So when we ask for a new financial system to be put in place, when we ask for data and analytics to be moved in, or to leverage Gen AI and how we are preparing our financials, we don't understand then how that affects the upstream teams if we do not have a clear perspective of the end-to-end process. And so that's really important. And we're really pushing our clients to take a step back and really map out from start to finish their processes with a collaborative team. And by doing that, it really helps to open the eyes across the board of our stakeholders so they understand the plight of the finance and accounting teams, while also the finance and accounting teams understanding their operational friends, aspects of it and what their experience is. Remember, the customer experience is so important in this, and that's part of what the digital transformation journey is supposed to improve, is that customer experience. And sometimes it's your external customers and sometimes it's your internal customers. Tom, do you want to talk a little bit about the last data point on the decentralized communication as well?
Absolutely. And you know what, Jen, just to double down on the process point, like we start all of our transformation approaches looking at process. Like we force the conversation there. And it is because there's so much richness in the transparency around that data set. And as Jen said, just sharing that and having a cross-functional team get eyes on it and understand each other's pain points, like that is where you're going to get value and understanding. And that's where teaming starts. So love that. Love the silo little icon there too. But decentralized communication. So we talked a little bit about tone at the top, and Jen mentioned this in operational alignment. Like, think about your strategic plan. Think about even your budget for the year and what everybody's trying to accomplish. Like, everyone is aligned to that organizationally. But then it seems that when you get into digital transformation and thinking about your own world, sometimes those things go by the wayside or aren't really thought of as a priority. But what are some ways that you can start with why? Like, why are you driving this digital transformation? How does it contribute to the greater good? And if you think about that Simon Sinek book from 2009, those principles still stand. Like, the why is so important to rallying the troops and getting everybody engaged. So how do you bring that together? And, you know, many times folks are using now OKRs, so objectives and key results. They're putting KPIs and measurements around the communication so that everyone's very clear on how we will measure results, measure progress. And that's super important, is to not only give the why, the qualitative, but the quantitative. And what's it going to look like? What does good look like when it looks like we're actually making progress? And we're going to measure that. Like, without those kind of measurements, you don't know whether you're moving, and you're not holding folks accountable to actually aligning to that overall communication and message. So this is more they versus, you know, it is more us versus they. It is more like greater good entity prioritization than it is personal advancement. It is making sure that you're creating a very good strategic alignment and vision around the transformation. We're going to get into it in a second, and we'll show you a couple examples of what a good vision could look like to rally around.
Awesome. All right. As we talked a lot about the feedback from the study, we also took a step back and really compiled some of the things that we're just doing naturally as part of our transformation initiatives with our clients. And a couple of the big things are on this page. This is what we lead with. This is what we consider building success as part of your digital transformation journey. And it really does help to drive speed and velocity in your transformation journeys. We put this together with the tool belt in mind that we're hoping that many of our clients can take this away as part of their ability to be successful in your journeys ahead. A couple of key things I'll touch on. We talked about this a little bit and in the last slide, just in terms of that strategic imperative. And one of the things, when I was working to build transformation offices, one of the big things that we really wanted to do is make sure that any of the initiatives that we were driving towards align to our strategic plan and our strategic goals for the year. And it's fascinating to me how many times our clients are not even connecting the dots between their company strategic plan with what their teams are trying to achieve. And it's so imperative, and especially in building momentum and the communication of things, to really drive the connective tissue between the why you're doing these initiatives, and the why is how you are affecting and making change to that strategic plan. How is this initiative really going to help the company be successful? So it's so important to do that, and also appoint initiative owners that can drive these initiatives forward. And accordingly, one of the great things about number 2 is driving cross-functional teaming. This really helps in that silo breakdown, because the goal here is to bring people together from finance, HR, your front office teams, IT, risk, and so forth. So bringing a holistic team together that has interest and responsibility into an area that's being affected by the initiative that you're driving just helps to speed up the process. It also really helps to create buy-in. These cross-functional team members can be your change agents across their teams. They help to drive messaging outward, and they also help to share how the change will affect them and their teams, so that you can ensure that the initiative is successful across the board. So we love really creating the avenue for building cross-functional teams. And accordingly, it helps then to make sure that we're getting at detailed requirements for whatever the project is. What are we looking to accomplish? What do we need this initiative to do for the company? Gather those requirements, take the time to do that, because when you do that, you are ensuring that you're going to be successful and tracking your ability to be successful by meeting the requirements that you've laid out for the future vision of the change that is coming. And accordingly, we talk a little bit about velocity and why do we care about the pace with which we're moving through transformation. And the pace is so important because we talked about how fast things are changing in the digital landscape. And as you're going through a 6-month initiative, the amount of tools, or year-long initiatives, the amount of new tools that'll hit the market during that time are going to be massive. And so our vision is that, and the ways that we get success is that we drive velocity through more agile approaches. And we don't have to have, full-on agile within organizations to be successful. You can have agile light or agile-like methodologies in the mix, but bring the team of teams approach, bring your Kanban boards, bring your sprinting brain. So the 2-week sprinting of initiatives is so important, because what we're trying to do is get some change happening, see success more often and regular, because that really helps to build the momentum through the initiatives as well. And you start to see change, you start to be able to adopt improvements quicker, and we're delivering that value early and often. And it really does help you affect change that may be coming throughout the year as well. And again, build momentum. If you've got these great cross-functional teams, we're driving velocity through good, agile ways, build momentum, talk about it, go out into the organization and share what's happening, get insights. be communicative, get feedback. And doing this really helps through, again, building trust and building insights into what's happening. This really helps that change process. So we're not in that waterfall arena where, a month from cutover, we're going to start communicating about what's happening. No, we want to be talking about it throughout the initiative life cycle, build a more, agile communication plan as well. And then let's make sure we're measuring our success, because we should have started with clear objectives. We should have started with clear vision and strategy. And if we're doing that, then we can measure our success on hitting those goals and objectives. So those are all the things that we want our clients to be thinking about having in their tool belt as they kick into their digital transformation. And then let's go to the next and talk about, even further. Yeah, go ahead.
Just maybe to pile on real quick, that was really good round the horn. One of the points on the left I wanted to call out specifically, and that's dedication. So when I think about forming cross-functional teams, like a couple things come to mind, because often we get who are these people? And the more time you can give to dedicated transformation versus a bunch of folks from a bunch of different functions that are doing this off of the side of their desks, you're going to make more progress. So there are studies out there. If you've ever read a book called Lead from the Future, I would put that on your reading list. It talks about if two people dedicated full time to something can accomplish as much as 10 people at 40% dedicated to the same initiative. So think about that. Putting in mind to digital transformation, maybe why progress isn't being made is that we're diluting the effort a bit. So if you think about dedication and you're forming those teams, what if you took some of your best people, the forward thinkers, the folks that are going to be creative, the ones that really know how your organization works, and put them on that cross-functional team? You're going to get the best results on the change that is likely most important to your organization because you assigned them there. And it's going to hurt in the meantime. You're going to have to figure out how to backfill them for their day job. But that is how digital transformation success works. It is dedicated time with your best people that are teaming cross-functionally, doing that cross-functional discovery that Jen talked about. So can't emphasize that enough. It's not creating an army dedicated 40%. It's putting the right people in the position and giving them the success factors, giving them the leeway to drive the change.
Love that, Tony. Those are good. All right, let's keep moving. All right, this is our last polling question, if I'm not mistaken. So now that we've shared some insights and some things to think about in that leadership tool belt, let's share what are the tools that are really driving some challenge in your digital transformation journey. What do you think your organization is struggling with the most? Interesting. I love seeing the answers coming up. Let's see. Still have a couple more coming, but it'll be interesting to see where people are hitting. I imagine it's going to hit across all of these. I think companies struggle with all of them at different points. All right, let's share here. All right, very cool. A lot with driving velocity, and that makes a lot of sense. It's really hard to keep things moving and move them quickly. There's often a lot of decision making that has to go into kicking off these transformation events. And again, we talked about that macroeconomic, uncertainty, and companies are just being very careful about their dollars. So they're making, they're trying to really pin down how successful transformation is going to be. That's why we talk about the importance of building in agile methods into the process. So what can you do to start seeing change and impact, but knowing that it's hitting on a broader vision and capability there. So that's great. And forming
measurable quick wins are so important to building momentum, right? You got to be able to show that it was worth it. And you got to think quick win mindset, balancing that with a longer term journey.
That's great. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, so we'll touch on this real quick, and then Tom's really going to dive into some ways to overcome what companies can do. And really, this just touches on a key aspect that we have built our transformation point of view around, which is really going through the digital transformation journey. It requires a holistic perspective across your operating model. So when you think about doing transformation, it can't just be about how am I changing my technology? How am I changing my data? You really need to think about, I need to start with that strategic vision out of the gate. It has to align to my strategy. And then I need to touch all of these things. How can I manage the process or Goode transformation office? How am I changing my processes, improving technology and data? Am I affecting my delivery model? And what does this do to our people? So having the big view around the holistic environment will really make transformation successful. You'll see in this McKinsey data point around an 80% success rate when companies are thinking about a holistic transformation journey, 80% compared to 30% success when you're not. When you're doing that point solution point and plug and play kind of view of the world. So love this data point. This is definitely what we're trying to encourage our clients to be thinking about. How does the change really affect your whole op model? So Tom, I think we're moving next into.
Yeah. I was just going to make a comment. It's so often we get in, we take a workshop approach. We really like that with our clients to try to minimize how long it takes to get into what the actual roadmap's going to look like. So we try to fast track that, and we try to flush the vision out very clearly from the leaders in the workshop. And it's amazing how often there is not a vision, there is not the strategy and North Star that everybody's working around. And then we come up with it in the workshop, like we work it up together. So it is a super important point to rally around, and then you see processes not too far behind it, as we already mentioned. But this is our approach, and it's holistic, and we think this gets the best success. So what does a good vision look like? Like, what does that even mean? It seems maybe hokey to some, or like, how do you even think about it? If you go to the next one. Oh, little animation there. I didn't know we had that. Continuous improvement, feedback loop. Okay, so the clear vision. And let's take a look at this framework over here within the iceberg. And I'll tell you, this is a great way, and so often, and we'll just call out finance for now as being, one of the primary folks that would be prioritizing what you're seeing on the left. But everyone has a role, whether it's IT, finance, the whole organization has a role in producing the reporting, the KPIs by which any enterprise is measured. And so often it is hard to get at the data sets, to get at the right KPIs, to think about how to pull together operational data versus financial data. And CFOs and C-suites in general get frustrated by this. And this is one of the more common, I would say, North Stars or visions that we see being created within our own client base, especially around the finance function or thinking about a finance transformation. And this cannot be solved without thinking about our silos, controllership and FP&A working together, and IT and finance working together to solve this problem, because we're bringing it all together, and I'll explain here in a second. So what is this? Like reporting, setting this clear strategic vision. CFO, what do they need? They want reporting. They want it now. They want it yesterday. They want it to be predictive. They want it to be forecasted. They want to see around corners. It's not just about producing 3 statements anymore and doing a look back on 3 financial statements. It is about what is going forward. And then how does your sales data feed into forecasts? How does marketing click data feed into how your sales are going to work out? What are people interested in buying from you? What do your product SKUs look like? Give me some supply chain metrics. All of those things are the new non-financial financial data that the enterprise is being asked for, and the CFOs on the hook for it. Let's face it, like that is who is being asked these questions, right or wrong. And what ends up happening is, like, look, we have to create everybody's place in creating that, or they're not going to understand their place in this vision. So starting at the very bottom of this chart, what needs to be produced is above the waterline, which is the reporting that I just mentioned. But way below the waterline is all the debits and credits that hit. It is customers interfacing with our apps. It is orders being taken. It is whatever your revenue flowing through. It's how your systems are wired up to source all of those transactions. And it's the processes that Jenn mentioned. Like, what are the end-to-end processes that end up flowing data so that you can digest it, interpret it, and create value from it? And those hit in a couple different ways. Some of those debits, credits, they hit the financial consolidation piece. And that's, that's the old way of thinking. That's where the controller comes into the picture, and they're consolidating information. They're producing the 3 statements. We've got that. That's very reliable. It's audited, and it stands alone. But there's this other piece that is really flagging as well, and that is there is non-operational data, or there's operational data, sorry, non-financial data that is flowing through the system. And there's more and more of this data multiplying out there. You can buy external data sets and mix it in, but it is your workforce planning. It is the supply chain I just mentioned flowing through. And how do you consolidate that data? Well, this is where IT and finance need to team and come together. And, what are the data sets? Let's define the KPIs that we need to do and produce and at scale. And what are the next 5 after that? Because we're thinking about today, but we always need to be thinking about tomorrow from the standpoint of creating competitive advantage with this. We can't fall behind if somebody else has scooped us on a metric that the market is measuring, investors need to see. We have to be able to produce that in real time. And once you break all of that down and you're able to think about the production process that is that finance and IT in the room together, then you think about planning. So which of these metrics are we going to build into the planning process every year and hold folks accountable? Who's accountable for it? Which functions, which business units? How does that all then roll out? Because it is part of our strategy. And that is what the CFO, the C-suite wants to see then is the reporting. What they see above the waterline is thoughtful. It's aligned to the strategy. It's financial. It's non-financial. It's forward-looking in nature. But everybody came together to produce it. And that's a vision that we need to align everyone on, because this is what's going on right now. This is the battlefield on which digital transformation is being fought. So this is one of the reasons that creating a strategic vision is so important. You can see your role in it and know how you contribute to it. So you see the keys over there on the right. Define the problem, align to the initiative. What is the mission? What are the objectives? What does success look like? How are we going to measure that? Let's break it down, as Jenn was saying, into bite-sized pieces, sprints, so that we can deliver value quickly. What is the one KPI we want to produce? What's the top priority? Like, let's knock that out first, deliver the quick win, and move to the next. Let's practice on that. Let's have the proof of concept. And let's dedicate resources to doing it and make sure that we have stakeholders that are engaged in the buy-in. It's always important to have a stakeholder that's sitting at the top of all this transformation and that they own it. They're your steer co. They're going to clear blockers for you as you're looking to drive the change. So you're going to have that cross-functional team that's working in the day-to-day, but you need somebody, the tone at the top, that has cleared the way for you to drive the change. Anyway, so we think this is a good vision. It's a cool framework around reporting and analytics, but that's just one problem to solve. There are many icebergs out there floating around, unfortunately, that organizations are working on. Jenn, anything to add here?
No, I love the visual because so often, we're even seeing that there's breakdown between the FP&A and the controllership. And so for them to be collaborating together and being in the room with the CIO as well, and making sure that their ultimate goals on the financial reporting or the statutory reporting or their public company reporting is all met, and understanding how it starts and what they need to get out of the transformation. All of that is so critical. And I love the data point around how all the data components are being consolidated in, because how many times, Tom, have you and I gone into companies and they're just trying to get at operational metrics, and they're trying to get to the data points that actually make their business run faster. And then when we start to unpack it, we're starting to see, well, the finance teams are actually needing that. The FP&A teams are needing those data points as well. It's not just, what can make the front office teams be successful, and vice versa. So building a strategy and a transformation journey that encapsulates everyone is so important.
Yeah. Does it tie to the ledger? The annoying finance question. Does it need to tie to the ledger? Can it be another source of truth?
That's right.
Those are questions you need to ask and need to do that together. So anyway, that's one vision. We're going to move quick here because we do want to take a couple questions, and Jenn and I maybe a little longer winded than we thought we were going to be. I want to share this story. This is a case study that was near and dear to my heart, part of my career, but just different way to maybe look at strategic vision and then like how you can phase out building up velocity over time. But this is an incremental approach to transformation. And I'll tell you the North Star of this was finance was holding the business back to a certain extent, could not produce charge codes, right? And that was pinned on finance, or timely, could not find purchases and where requisitions were traveling through the system. That was not transparent to folks, and there were long cycle times on that. Reporting was scattered all over this particular firm. And from that perspective, there was a lot of frustration out there that was being pinned on finance. And so change needed to happen. That was the North Star. It was an emergency because the business was being held back. And that's bottom line. That's enterprise value. And that's what finance needs to do. So the way this transformation started was that it was engaged with the people. It started with the people, because if you don't offer up everyone a voice to contribute to that strategic vision, then this really just is a cream dump. So are you crowdsourcing ideas from everybody? They're closest to the processes down there on the ground. Give everyone a voice to drive that change and share their ideas. Not only that, but educate them on the tools that are in the portfolio. How do they use them? We see so much tech debt of folks that have bought the tools, as we told you, but nobody knows how to use them. And then it's like, well, this thing is broken. Well, it's not broken. It's just not utilized to its full extent, or nobody ever trained you on how to use it. So upskill the workforce on the new and digital tools, whether it be dashboarding, whether it be Gen AI, but also the infrastructure you have in place. Just give that to them. That is a gift, because you're going to maximize value. You're going to get more value from that. So engaging everyone to lead at all levels and have a voice, have dedicated resources. So we talked about this. Form a team that is dedicated to business process improvement, Tiger team, whatever you want to call it, but transformational thinking full time. Those dedicated resources are thinking about how to solve the problems, and they're engaging cross-functionally. This is the team that you want to have host a cross-functional session where you're looking end to end at all of your processes and you're getting the visual transparency. What does all of this look like? Like, where are all the big pain points? Where are we falling down? Where's the data intersect with all of this? Which tools are in place along the course of the end-to-end process? So start with that, have them host it, and engage everybody across. From a technology perspective, you can, now that you've upskilled folks, you can see who's really gravitating to the technology. So insert those champions around the organization, sprinkle them in. Somebody that you could go to see how to use the store. What is the art of the possible around what some of these tools can do? So digital champions are super helpful to drive the change. So create that champion network. What we did, so we moved a little faster here. After we got that going, we got a lot of good automation and results, process improvement, stop doings from the process improvement work, which we were able to then reinvest. And we thought, like, wow, based on that, we have a lot of organizational silos we found. We are upskilled, so we could be more agile. We're more digital in nature. And we were able to do a reorganization based on, like, let's align to services and the value that we provide in some agile teams. Like, let's create some cross-functional teams so that we're more agile with change that comes at us, or that we're able to do strategic projects along.
All right. I'll keep moving. I think Tom froze, but hopefully you guys can hear me. So we'll kick in, and appreciate you all taking some extra time, and happy to answer questions. But these are a couple of the key things that we're thinking about, and if you want to take action. So again, just circling back to some of the concepts. Are your stakeholders aligned and accountable to the strategic vision? Do you have agile methods being utilized to help drive pace? Do you have define success criteria and measures so that you can measure your success. And as we talked about those cross-functional teams, we often call them our tiger teams. So do you have those formed and are they engaged? So these are some of the things that we think about and would ask our clients to think about in moving forward and taking action. So I know we've got just a couple of minutes left, but happy to take any questions. Two of our team members will be helping us work through those, but happy to unmute and take questions as you want to raise hands here. Yes, we can share a copy. I think all attendees will get a link to the webinar and materials as well. Happy to do that.
Hey, Jen, we got a couple questions I can throw your way here.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brett Schneider. I work with Jen and Tom in business transformation. And Tom's laughing now. Welcome back. We missed you.
So I'm in Tampa, Florida, and we're having a thunderstorm right now, and everything just got zapped. So sorry about that, everybody.
All good. Welcome back. So just two questions here. One was, do you have any suggestions for deploying agile methodologies in an organization where agile is a foreign concept?
That's a good one. Tom, what are your thoughts on that? I can share some as well.
So, you know, I love reading. I love curiosity in this area. So first of all, books or recommended reading. HBR has an article that they refresh all the time called Agile at Scale. And it really paints the picture for what the benefits could be of this and how people could speak the same language. I would also recommend Age of Agile as a book. You only need to read the first chapter to really get what they're getting at. So reading is one, but doing some very light examples. There are exercises you can do around what the benefits could be, or you could just take what Jen said earlier in the webinar, which is one of my favorites, which is like, things are flying at us really fast. This isn't about like agile, like deep agile. This is about like being agile. This is about being agile-ish and being able to pivot with change. And if you go to waterfall approaches, like they just become too long and you don't meet the requirements over time. So anyway, Jen, anything to add there?
I would also think about, and what we've done with clients is just bring in any of your teams that are thinking about this and kind of run them through a quick session around Agile Light, and bring in a Scrum Master, and our company and many have Agile coaches, and so sometimes doing a quick session with your key stakeholders on what it looks like, what it means, just talking through those concepts really helps to open minds and help folks understand. And then, like Tom said, maybe taking one of your initiatives or a quick project through an Agile kind of light process just gives folks an understanding of it. Then it helps you all to understand any key questions that you might have and ways to work through it. So very easy ways: reading, bringing in an Agile coach, just do a quick info session. We're always happy to do that as well. And it'll help open minds and bring people along.
Cool. I know we're at the top of the hour. We have one more question I'll throw in there. What were the biggest hurdles you had to overcome to develop a culture of continuous improvement, and how do you overcome them?
Oh, that's good. That's a really good one. I can kick us off. Tom, go. I mean, obviously we talk about tone from the top, but the continuous improvement thing really needs to eke out into your whole organization. And so part of it is just helping team members understand, like, when they're seeing success happen. And we talk about those like sprinting exercises. When teams are being able to see the value that's happening early and often, it starts to almost become addictive. And so the more that teams are being embedded and creating the cross-functional teams, being part of cross-functional teams, they really start to understand how impactful taking on continuous improvement into your organization is, because they're being pulled in and being a part of it. So I love like making, finding ways to build out those cross-functional tiger teams, helping them to see the journey, what is the long-term journey looking like, and just pulling teams together more often. And it helps them to, execute in initiatives, and then seeing how that execution is actually proving results. And then people start to see the importance of building on that and taking on other initiatives as well.
Yeah. Great summary. Only thing maybe to add is, like, how do you incentivize people to be part of it? How do you reward folks and emphasize, like, what are the carrots that are out there within the org? Like, digital transformation could be a lot of fun, but you need to have the journalism to go along with it and tell the stories of success and where people leaned in, because then you create a groundswell, especially if you've asked everybody at the beginning what their ideas were. So solicit the ideas, but then celebrate the successes, and it'll just build on itself.
Awesome. That wraps up all the questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for your time. I know we went over. Appreciate any questions you may have. Our emails are located here. Welcome to continue the conversation after, and looking